quick on a Saturday. Beautiful day here in Puerto Rico. Go enjoy the day. But if you want to stick around, we'll do a little Q&A. I'll answer some questions. I see there's a bunch of them. And we will go from there. If you got to take off, take off. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you guys. Now let's take a look at what the heck are all these questions. Let's see. Daniel says, this is from the first part. What about all the ETH fees bashing? Not new Bitcoin fees have been out of control for a year. Daniel's right. Let's be honest. They are ridiculous. I remember there was an interview with Vitalik Buterin, and he was talking about how ridiculous it is that people have to pay over 20 cents for a transaction fee. Of course, this was like in 2016 or something like that. And he's like, yeah, with Ethereum, we won't have that. Who'd have thunk it? Let's see. Ashley had this question, got the Tangent wallet. Do you know if they have plans to stake crypto in the future? I actually answered this. Tangent wallet, you can stake on your cold storage wallet, which is just a card. But you have to use Wallet Connect. I talked to them a couple weeks ago, and they're going to roll out native staking within the app and the card, so you can store everything on the cold storage device and not have to go through Wallet Connect, which is kind of a pain. So expect that in April, May, June, somewhere around there. Probably not April. Let's see. Doug says, happy 420. Happy 420. Golfer says, when's EOS halving? That would be for Beardy. EOS equals Bitcoin. Tim. Yes, it is. Me and Beardy are the only ones that know about EOS, apparently. And how great it was supposed to be. Let's see. Yeah. Every day is 420 in Puerto Rico. That's true. Because it's medicinal here. That's just how it goes. I have no problems with that. None. That's funny. Crashing Bitcoin, that's a pun on Solana. Yeah, that's how it goes. So I always think that, even with Solana and how it is, and people talk about, well, a crash here and a crash there. And I always say to people, I'm like, look, I think Solana has its place, but I think Cardano has its place. I think Bitcoin has its place, Ethereum, Arbitrum, Near. As time goes on, it's all going to fall underneath an umbrella of blockchain tech. And it's going to be chain abstraction. We're not going to know what we're using. It's going to be under the hood. It's just like, if you're old enough to remember this, like when the cell phones first came out, it's like you had AT&T, you could call an AT&T person. If you had whatever, I didn't think T-Mobile was on back then. But you could only call the person that had the same type of service that you had, which was ridiculous. I mean, we think about it, it's ridiculous. In 10 years, it's going to be the same thing. They're like, what? You could only use Ethereum for ERC20? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly. Those were the good old days. That's why we're all rich, because we got in early and had to deal with this nonsense. Golfer's got a good point. I got to be honest, the white paper is becoming somewhat outdated. There was no way to know what the future will hold for Bitcoin. You're right. And think of it this way. Iron was discovered tens of thousands of years ago by man, right? When they understood that, and then as time went on, they said, okay, well, we can make flint, we can make arrows, we can make broadswords with iron. As time went on, and then they figured out how to make steel, would they ever have thought that with the iron that you had there, that you could mix compounds and make steel, and then you could make armor, right? Or then you can make shields or whatever else it is, because iron would be too hard. And then just leapfrog a couple hundred years later, and you can take those same steel and make that into skyscrapers, or you could put that into cars. There's no way that people would ever know that. I think it's the same thing of what we're talking about here as far as the advancing technology of Bitcoin as it comes through. In the beginning, it made total sense to be a peer-to-peer transaction, right? Because no one really knew about it, and the network really didn't get congested. The fees weren't so bad. You could actually do those things. This is what the OGs tell me. Back in the day, they actually just used it for to really buy coffee. It doesn't work like that. As time has gone on, we've kind of seen it. And we've all seen the narrative, right? Is it a store of value? Is it a hedge against inflation? Is it peer-to-peer transaction? Is it a global hedge, and then all of a sudden just becomes a different narrative for whatever else it is. We're still trying to find our place, let's be honest. And we're right now in price discovery. So Golfer had a good point, and it is true. I think as time goes on, we're going to find out what it really is and what the price point actually could be. And that's why I still say, as great as Bitcoin is, it is the safest and best computerized, decentralized network on the planet. Why don't we just build on top of that, just like we did with the internet and TCP/IP? Makes sense to me. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not broken. It's like me. Let's see. No war for Israel. That's good. Yeah, apparently there was a strike on Iran, and Iran said, it wasn't a big deal. We're not going to retaliate. Great. Let's off-put World War III for a couple more months. It's good. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. Fantastic. Love Everyone says, yeah, just send it at low priority and not at peak hours. Yeah, if you're trying to do that right now for Bitcoin, you can do it. It just seems weird to have to do that in crypto, because we're used to just sending things and getting done. And now we're like, well, just don't do it here, don't do it there. I get it. It makes sense. But as time goes on, we have to move beyond that. It has to be better. David, Ordinals and runes, NFTs are all nonsense garbage. The Bitcoin chain should have been kept pure. Now we have to deal with these huge transaction fees to move our money around. You can take a look at it like that, or you can take a look at it like this. We discovered that the more transactions that are being done in here, we need to fix that problem. Here's another example. Let's say, for instance, that we start to get mass adoption, and then we start to use it for what is originally intended for transactions. And then people all over the globe, because right now I know people think we're mass adopted in Bitcoin. We're not. There's some people that are speculating, but you're not seeing everybody that you possibly know. Here's another example. The people that you know right now, how many of them asked you about the Bitcoin halving? And how many knew exactly what it was? They didn't know. I had my friend George. He's like, hey man, I heard you're going to lose half your Bitcoin. So here we are. So as time went on, and if we would have discovered this problem later, as everything got congested, I think it's better that we discover this now with ordinals and runes and the NFTs and everything else, so we can fix that, and then we roll it out to the big show, which is the global community. So it is what it is. I know some people hate it, but me personally, I'm just like, for me as an entrepreneur, I'm just like, go as fast as you possibly can and break the things that you need to break within reason. Figure out what the problem is, fix that problem, and move on. And try not to screw up too bad. That's it. None for you, Birdie. You make a ton of dough already. I don't know. You don't need anything from me. JC, Rob, do you think we will have another leg down? Yeah, probably. Do I know what it is? I have no idea. Take your pick. I mean, let's just see if we get any type of, Max from Because Bitcoin, he was on with me and Ben in the Cryptoverse. He had a really good point about when we start to see rate cuts. And he said, you have to understand, with rate cuts, is it because Jerome Powell timed it perfectly and the market is in that perfect space to actually take the rate cuts? Or is it because there's a problem with the macro economics or the economy itself, and we need to take those rate cuts because people are getting slaughtered? And he goes, if that's the case, which he goes, it probably is going to be, you have to understand that we're still on a risk-on environment. And Bitcoin, whether if you like it or not, for the majority, not everybody, but they feel it is a risky asset. So for that one, as far as a leg down, if we start to see this rate cuts, which we don't even know, June I think is off the table, maybe July, FOMC rates will see where we're actually going. I think it was July or August. At that point, all bets are off depending on what the macro environment is. But remember, there is a presidential election, so expect some cheery, rosy reports to come out. I know. Jerome Powell isn't political. Let's see. Rob, we're all a bit lost with those runes and ordinals and wizards. It's too Harry Potter-esque for me. Panda Pie is exactly right. I'm going to, good news, everybody. So I had Jack Liu. He's one of the founders of Magic Eden on. And we just talked about Magic Eden. Magic Eden is a place where you can buy those runes. You can buy NFTs and ordinals and all those things. And he talked about it. And we're going to do an educational series with him and some of his cohorts to make it very easy. I'm going to show you how it actually works. Because even I have questions. I am not the expert on that. That is for sure. That's why I reach out to people who know better than me. The people who actually, are in this day in, day out. Yeah, medicinal where I live as well. Nothing wrong with that. Look, it's great for inflammation. And it's great for cancer patients. It's probably not the thing you expected me to talk about, but here we are. What do you think of Ethereum? Is it likely to go to 10K? I don't know about that. I'll say this. Ethereum at the end of 2024, we've done some analysis. We've taken a look at it. Ethereum will be somewhere between $2 and $25,000 by the end of 2024. So somewhere in that range, we're pretty like 50% sure. How's your Theta bag? Still pretty fat. Theta signed a deal with Aether, Aethir. If you guys aren't familiar with Aether, again, the DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure network, and AI is going to be a big narrative, and these guys are crushing it. So Aether has a deal with them, with Theta. They have a deal with Qualcomm, and they've got a deal with somebody else. Who was it? Oh yeah, iOS.net, which is another project for GPU and to take the unused hash rate of what's being used on those GPUs to be actually sold to for people who are running AI programs. If it doesn't make sense, I didn't really do a good job of explaining that, I must be honest with you. If you've ever, there's a link in the description, like everything else. Whoops. And I have a second channel, and it's called Dan Degen. And again, it's a very this is the meat and potatoes channel. This is the risky channel. And this is where right now I'm doing the most of my investing. I'm still dynamic DCAing at this point, but I'll be honest with you. These where I think things are going to really pick up. But if you come over there, it is the one 3 weeks ago we did. Aether. If you just type in Dan Degen, Aethir, just take a look at this one. It's a good, reasonable video. And we had Dan Wong on, who is one of the co-founders, to talk about his project. And I think that'll be the big play. So to answer your question about Theta, I still have the bags. I did sell some in the last bull cycle. I had to sell some. And then again, if they're working, if it's Theta, Aether, iOS.net, and Render, and again, what I like about that sector, DePIN and AI, is that there's so much demand right now. And even we took a look at what Elon Musk said about compute power for AI. There's so much demand that's coming that there's enough room for everybody. Instead of just going, ADA is awesome and Solana sucks. Solana is awesome and Avalanche sucks, and so on and so forth. Everybody's going to be a winner in this one, I think. Well, not everybody. You got me on that one. But there's more winners than, it's not a zero-sum game in this situation. Hey, where dogs thrive. Welcome. Pause is here. RSR Gala or none of them, and why? I don't know. Get them both, because like I've said before, everything in the bull market usually goes up, no matter if it sucks or not. I'm not saying it does, but yeah. And here's my grandson. Hello, buddy. Don't my muscles make me look cute? This would be... Is this Tiny Cat? Nice, kid. He will actually... He's my gamer-in-chief. He'll be doing a lot of the gaming, which we have for Illuvium. I'm just going to put out a video on Illuvium, and what we're going to do with playing the game to actually get a massive airdrop. And we had Kieran Warwick on, who was one of the co-founders, and he talked about it. So I'll release that video tomorrow, And you have to, if you have a PC, you can download the game, just start playing it. Or if you're like me, just hire child labor like my grandson and say, hey, play this game and we'll split the profits with you. That's how it goes. Jean-Louis, hey, buddy. Hey, Rob, does your DCA take into account all the transaction fees? No, it doesn't, because with the transaction fees, it's just, it's across the board. And I don't know where everybody's at. So here's an example. So Coinbase regular, without Coinbase One, those fees are pretty high. And that's why, like, when we're dollar cost averaging, it kind of runs itself up. And then that's why I like dynamic DCAing more, because you're buying less and those fees don't accumulate so much. But still, in that situation, it still is not the greatest. Then there's Coinbase One, where you pay like, I think it was either $9.97 or $19.97 per month. So you get a lower fee, and everybody's up to $10,000 for your transaction fees per month. That works out pretty well. But the third option, which I think is going to work really well for everybody who is doing the dynamic DCA approach, because you're not like setting it and forgetting it, you're actually actively involved. That would be for Coinbase Pro. And everybody tells me that those fees are pretty low. And that's just Coinbase. Now, if we're taking a look at Binance, because that's where, if you're outside the US, congratulations. You can use Binance and a host of other ones. And for that one, those fees are extremely low. I think they have some of the lowest out there. OKX is pretty good. Decentralized exchanges, I try to stay away from as much as possible. But if I have to use it, I have to use it, because those exchange fees are just crazy. So I don't get too crazy out there with that. But it's a good point, Jean-Louis. And yeah, I try to minimize the fees as much as possible. Hey. Mike says, I lost half my portfolio last weekend. Oh, didn't we all? Well, not half. I think in the last 2 weeks or so, aren't we all down like roughly 25%, depending? Except if you went all into Bitcoin. I think you're only down like, well, I mean, at the high was 73,000. We did hit 60. That's about, that's something. That's about 18%. But now I think we're back up to 65,000. So maybe you're like, if you had all Bitcoin itself, maybe you're down 12% or something like that, which is quite hefty, I might add. Nothing goes up in a straight line, though. But yeah, we lost it. Yeah. Matthias says, hey, Rob, have you ever thought of the dystopian future where Michael Saylor controls all the money and Elon controls the data? Just struck me earlier today. I know people love Michael Saylor, and they do, and they say he's the greatest of all time. But I mean, he's a great speaker and proponent for Bitcoin. I can't get away from that. But it's one of those things that he says where he says you should never sell Bitcoin. And I think about that a lot. And I know some of you will agree with him and say you should never sell Bitcoin, because it's going to just keep going up, and this is for my grandkids, or this is for my kids, or for my community, or whatever else it is. I'm never selling. Great. I need to separate from that piece. This is why no one should ever say I can give you financial advice online, because no one knows your situation and what's going on. Me personally, if I take a look at this and I say to myself, well, if I'm a billionaire and I have a multi-billion-dollar company and I have massive stock options where I can sell up until the end of April, and the amount that I can actually appreciate in the stock is dependent on how much Bitcoin I actually buy, which runs up the cost of my stocks, then I would like to buy more Bitcoin, and I would like to never sell it as well, because it only makes sense for me. Now, let's take another person. Let's take a person who is single mom family of 3 kids, working 3 jobs. And she's trying to get ahead in life, and she's watching everything appreciate. And then, of course, if we still believe in the 4-year cycles, which I still do, and she sees everything, she puts it in, and then it goes all the way up, and she could pay off massive credit cards. She could maybe be able to actually own, part of her house. She could actually fix up her car and actually not actually drive that beater. Again, it's all dependent. Maybe she should take some profits and go across the way and sell some of that Bitcoin. But some people say, well, how dare you? Because, she's just getting into fiat and that dirty fiat and what it actually is. Look, no one can really say what it is. But me personally, I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell Bitcoin. I'm going to sell alts. I'm going to sell 80% of those. And I'm going to tell you when I'm going to do it. There's a link in the description where I talk about the half and half method and when I'm going to sell 80% of my crypto. Do I sell all of it? No, because there's a moon bag there. And I think, quite honestly, there's a problem when people have so much into crypto. I saw that in 2017. I saw it in 2021. And I saw the depression and the problems that people had as they round trip their bags. It went all the way up and it went all the way down. And people were like, but I was supposed to diamond hands. What happened? I'm tired of that narrative. So again, different story for different folks. That was a long answer. Sorry. Yeah, buddy, I got a second chat. You're going to be a part of it. All right. Base memes. Those are going to be big. This is what everybody tells me. I don't know for sure. And remember, memes and NFTs, those are all gamblings. That's all gambling. But it's fun. But again, that's why we have the rules, right? The rules. I still hold tons. Nice. The rules. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. It's all gone. Everything's a scam and tough for otherwise. 0% exchanges means don't leave things on exchanges. Nothing. That's why we get a ledger or we get a tangent or we get something to take it off. Don't use leverage and take profits along the way. Those are the rules for me. You might want to implement some of those or none or all. It's up to you. Let's see. Next global currency is EOS. I don't know if that's true, Beardy. I mean, it might be. In 2017, you better believe it. It was the next big thing. Do you want to show us any interesting charts or data that you find recently that could be useful to know? Yeah, well, we took a look at the miner fees from yesterday. We took a look at the miner transactions, what they actually sell, what they sold in 2016, what they sold in 2020, what they sold in 2012. And of course, afterwards, how the mining operation is actually starts to sell less as we get past the halvings. We can take a look at that. We also took a look yesterday at DCA or dollar cost averaging dynamic DCAing. So we did all those things. If you want to go over some charts, I guess I could show you, I don't know. Bullish. Let's take a look at, how about this? Actually, you know what? Instead of doing the bull support band, why don't we take a look at MBRVZ score? Actually, I got a great sum for you. Let's do a quick rundown of selling. And we'll take a look at, here's my sell indicators. I like this one. Net unrealized profit and losses, or the NUPL. It's derived from the market value realized value. Current price of Bitcoin by the numbers. I mean, it's market value, right? Realized value takes the price of each Bitcoin when is the last move. What I like about this is you can see when it's actually a good time to buy and a good time to sell. And you can see that, and I even talked about this, as a matter of fact, which is kind of crazy. Well, not that around. Yeah, it was like 3 weeks ago or so. I said, I put a tweet out. I said, hey, take profits or I'll dump on you. And everybody made fun of me. But it was just like a reminder. And it was a point when, I mean, we were pretty heavily over. It was like 72,000. And you can just see right here as it goes into the orange section that maybe it's time to take a little profits and look. Because people are always thinking it'll never go down, and there it is. So I like this one as far as a sell indicator, also as buy indicators as it goes down to that green section or capitulation section. Good time to buy. Remember this time? 16,000? That's not bad. 16,443? Yeah. 17,000. What else is over here? 20,000. I'd buy there. And then, of course, in the last cycle, it called it perfectly. 5,000 on March 13, 2020. Over here, 4,000. Imagine that. So again, if you want to take a look at that, look into bitcoin.com. Free charts. Let's see. That's just one. Let's take a look at, oh, my favorites. Pi cycle top. Let's see how far close or how, it's moving away. So Pi cycle top was created by Taylor Swift, Philip Swift. And it takes a look at the 350-day moving average times 2 as a crossover the 111-day moving average. And this was created actually in 2019. It wasn't created like in 2012, so everybody knows. And let me take a look at the 24-hour. And retrospectively, looking at 2019 and back, it called 2017 pretty good, 2013, 13. Also did a pretty good job in 2021. And this is one of the indicators I'm looking for to when I'm going to sell. And you can see that, I mean, it's pretty far away. If we extrapolate this out, I think we're like, if it goes in the same trajectory, you're looking at 6 to 8 months when it crosses over, but it's anybody's guess. And when that happens, you start to look at the other indicators, fear and greed index, MVRVZ score, pull multiple, those types of things. And those are the things I would look at for selling. But as far as like buying, just go for the dynamic DCA parts, which again, takes a look at time and risk bands. So there's something bloody. Hopefully that helps you out. Can you get Aether yet? No. Aether is going to be released as far as the TG, the token generation events, in May, and that's when I would get into it. One thing to be crystal clear aware of, when tokens launch, depending on where, it doesn't really matter actually, DEXs or centralized exchanges, tier 1, tier 2s, doesn't really matter. Once they start to launch, remember you've got people and you got early investors who want to make their money back. So usually what happens, usually, not all the time, it'll start at a high valuation and people will sell off and you'll see it just drop and drop and drop as people are taking profits, because what they listed at, let's say Aether gets listed at 5 cents, right? I can guarantee you there are people that VCs, early seed, private rounds that probably got that at a fraction of a penny. And for them, 5 cents, like, I got to take some profits. And they do. So be careful with this one. It's going to be great, I think. But in the beginning, you got to protect yourself. Let's see. I didn't mean to say that. I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. Let's see. Titans, I like it. Fees are fees. ICP and Internet Computer Protocol. Banks can't survive without fees. That's true. Or fractional reserve lending. That's what they really make their money. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Pi. Don't mess with the keyboard games, Chief. Awesome boy. Thanks, Bluegrass. Hello, Slack. Ordinal NFTs, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I own Wizards and the Runestone. And what's great about that Runestone is that it was a little pricey. But the airdrops. And it is gambling. You have to understand. So, yeah, thank you, golfer. I know millionaires are broke. I do too. They talk a good game. But as far as like revenue coming in, not the greatest. They have assets and unrealized losses. So yeah, just because someone looks like they're making it doesn't mean that's true. Like this, it's all fake. Green screen. Don't believe anything I say. Remember, what's the first rule? Everything's a scam until proven otherwise. Even the words that are coming out of my mouth. You can't trust, you got to verify. Thank you. Protect me, Gary. Gary. There's a rumor that he was going to step down, but then it was a tweet that he put out. And then the very last, it was like a 5-parter. And the very end, he said, okay, we're going to work harder to make the SEC and we're going to stick around. I'm like, ugh, this guy. Great. Hey, Dutch says, thanks for everything. Watching you since the last bull ended, made it through the bull better off than before. Now, look, really all it comes down to, everybody, is, and I talked about this in my group last night. I said, congratulations, everybody who got here, because you did the hard thing, which was buy during the bear market when everybody thought we were going to go to zero. Not everybody, but we knew the real deal. Now we're in a pretty good place. And we took a look at why I'm not dollar cost averaging regular wise after the halving. Makes no sense. Watch the video yesterday of why I said that as far as dollar cost averaging and dynamic dollar cost averaging. So now you just take a break. All you got to do is just watch things appreciate. We might have a black swan event, might go down, no big deal. Nothing goes in a straight line. The hardest part we're all going to go through, and this is everybody, even me, is when to sell at the right time. We're not going to hit the top. That's okay. If you DCA in, might think about DCAing out, and as time goes on, then you take a look at it and say, okay, if I didn't hit it, no big deal. I can step away. I'm happy. But when you sell your last bag of whatever that is, I'm going to keep 20%. You can't keep looking at the charts because it'll crush you. Because then you'll start thinking of, well, shoot, I sold tomato coin at 10 cents and it went up to $1.50. And they signed a deal with the Olive Garden, whatever. And then before you know it, you're like, wow, that 100,000 I made could have been 1.5 million. You cannot do that because that's the worst thing. Once you sell, that's it. It's set in stone and just walk away. That's the hard part. If you guys can do that, you'd be fine. Yeah, bot says it right. Go to trading view, overlay Bitcoin price with global liquidity. You guys ever seen this? This is actually pretty good. Let me see if I can pull this up. Macro. So what we're talking about here is the M2 money supply. So the M2 money supply is essentially money supply that's being printed. And most of it is essentially quantitative easing. That's everything you can see in red here, right? And if you overlay, right now we're overlaying the S&P 500. Actually, Ben showed me this the first time. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So if you adjust for inflation and all those things, we haven't really gone up too high. We've just printed a boatload of money here in the States. And you can see with the S&P 500, what happens. As the money supply gets printed, which is where inflation comes from, talk to Milton Friedman. He'll tell you. As it keeps going up, that's why we're hitting all-time highs. However, I would like to note one thing, because people say, well, Bitcoin, since its inception, Genesis block 2009, we've never had a reduction as far as the M2 money supply. Not true. Come up here. I want to show you something. We actually fell off as far as the money supply itself because we had to do quantitative tightening because we kept printing too much money. And during that time, actually, let me switch over to the S&P 500 because who cares about that? Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Well, look at that. So it did go down. And as we had this inflection point of January 2023, what happened as time went on is they're like, okay, we're going to reduce the amount of money that's out there. But what did Bitcoin do? Went the opposite way. So for me, that's incredibly bullish. And Rusty Bot is right. If you overlay the money supply over most of anything, most of it really just comes down to is an increase in liquidity into the markets. And that's exactly what happened with stocks. It's exactly what happened with gold. That's exactly what's happened with Bitcoin, except for this point. And we're actually doing a pretty good job so far. So excellent question, Bot. Excellent. ICP is not going anywhere. You know what's funny about ICP? This is in adoption metrics. Where is it? If you can go to I wish I could find it. It was GitHub commits and commits from developers. And every single time, let me see if I can find it here. Every single time developers. Every single time Internet Computer Protocol is number one. Not that that's anything, but I'm just saying it's, let me see. And now, doesn't have it here. I forgot the name of the website. But yeah, something to be noted of. But ICP could be big. I own some. Not a lot, but enough to get, enough to talk about it. Ah, Cotter. Welcome back. Da-da-da. Says, thank you to all the rune buyers. You are increasing my miner revenues by a huge amount. Interesting. Much more than before the halving. It was Peter Thiel, head of, I think it was Mara. Let me see. CEO. Mara Bitcoin mining. Oh, I would say Peter Thiel. That would be the monster investor. This is Fred Thiel. Fred Thiel. He was on either CNBC or CoinDesk. I forgot who it was. But he said that, yeah, with ordinals that are coming in, he goes, there's been, many a day that the rewards, which we get for the computational power of using our miners, it's actually not as much as securing the network and the transaction fees because of these ordinals. So he said, we're actually quite profitable right now. This was over 2 months ago. He said, we're actually looking forward to the halving because if this keeps happening, we'll be in a good state. So Cotter, I have to concur with him of what he just said. And that's with runes, which honestly, I was under the assumption that runes was supposed to not be as near as expensive as ordinals. Same guy who created them, but I guess not. Oh well, see what happens. What's your coin bet for Bitcoin L2? Go over to check the second channel, Dan Degen. I talk about Core. There's another one that's, well, of course, stacks. I own a bunch of stacks, no pun intended. So kind of biased on that one. So take that with a grain of salt. Stacks I could think could be a good one. It's been around since the last bull run. I remember Miami Coin. Yeah, that was built on stacks. And that's essentially smart contracts built on the Bitcoin network. And there's one more that I think looks pretty good. Velar, V-E-L-A-R. Let me show you that. That'll be my next deep dive video. Velar, Bitcoin L2. And it looks like this. Imagine having a DEX on a decentralized exchange on Bitcoin. And all the things that's really being, manhandled by Solana and Avalanche, if you want to look at Trader Joe, can be done on Bitcoin. And it can be successfully done on a layer 2. So that would be Velar. And then, of course, there's this one, and there's also, let me pull it up. There's also one that's almost in the top 50, which would be Core. Oh, it slipped to 61. Wow. Look at this. In 7 days, Core, it's really a side chain. Pretty good. Yeah. So Core is, again, for liquidity, DEXs, smart contracts, and a host of other things. Watch the video I did on Dan Degen. That could be a big one. So those are my bets for layer 2s. So those 3. Yeah, Tesla's everywhere. ain't English. It's my English. I have a masterful command. Please let me know what you mean by airdrops with runes. So with Rune Stone, if you own that, that rune NFT, essentially you're going to be getting a lot of different airdrops. We'll see. This was informed to me by my degenerate gambler in chief, Steven from the San Juan Smokehouse, which it was me, Steven, and a couple of guys who are essentially the big Solana degens that run a lot of different meme coins. We had a meeting and we just talked about these things over beers. And I was like, oh, great. Not tomato coin. Debatable. Paul Hart's right. Paul Hart's got a good point. If you look at statistically the best time, and it's not perfect, but I mean, if you want to get within 70%, you buy 6 months before the halving, which was a pretty good time. And then you sell 18 months afterwards. So the last halving was yesterday, obviously. So let's see. 18 months, that's going to put us in a 2025, October, November, somewhere around there. Same thing happened. It was May 11th, 2020 was the halving for the last one. And then of course, when was the perfect time? 18 months? November 9th. It's amazing how these things keep happening. And then people say, wow, there was this black swan event and no one saw it coming. Seems like it always keeps happening. Not for sure. Is Awesome Boy the best Flappy Bird player? He potentially could be. That kid's a gamer through and through. That's why, like, I recognize talent. I see Awesome Boy, and he's really good in the gaming arena. I am not, so that's why I hired him. Again, I pay him very little. Family, right? Holy smokes. I walked 20,000 steps today. That's pretty good. Thanks, Dom. Serge's got a point. As long as the stock market keeps going through a correction, Bitcoin will find it hard to fly. That's a great one for correlations on Ben's website. Let's go steal some more of his information. I'm sure he won't mind. Let's see here. Macro. How about Parsons? Oh, maybe it's in crypto. Yeah. Not this one. So we can see that as far as like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Bitcoin. Let's do commodities. Or let's do indices. Let's do S&P 500. Let's take a look at total market cap just to see. So again, when we're at 0, that means there's no correlation. When the correlation is +1, it's a perfect correlation between the two sets. And then when it's negative, it means they do the exact opposite. So you can see that it bounces all over the place, but it's quite high in the plus category, right? So that means a linear correlation between two sets of data. That's a lot of times when it's, and of course down here, sure, I get it. But lately, and this is, I wish there was a time frame we could go back. Yeah. Here's January, almost positive. Kind of in the middle. Actually 0, there's no correlation. But as time has gone on, it seems like even though people think it's not a risk on asset, it really is. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and see how that, yeah, same thing, really. So yeah, again, that's why I like Ben's website. Get to steal all his stuff. Are you still in love with the Stepin project? I never liked the Stepin project. I thought it was a Ponzi scheme through and through. However, people made a lot of money off it. What I personally liked was Sweatcoin. And of course, how did Sweatcoin do? Not too great. So Sweatcoin was a free move to earn app, which I thought would do pretty well. However, it's not too bad, actually. Take a look here. And you can download it right now. I think I still have a link in the description for Sweatcoin. But yeah, it's pegged to like a penny. And that's pretty much it. I got it for $0.015. I'm still down that investment. But yeah, I'm not going to go over that. One of my, Han says Runes is a scam, potentially. Yeah. Developing blockchain stats, ICP number 1. Okay. ICP, sure. Sailor only says he will never sell because he does not need his Bitcoin turned to cash. Exactly, Astrid. He believes Bitcoin will be here for 100 years. He looks at it like Manhattan real estate 200 years ago. Yeah, he's probably right. He might be right. But again, Astrid has a good point. He doesn't need it, right? So for some of us, like when we invest in these things, we're like, I don't need this to, This isn't a make or break situation for me, but for some people it really is. And I think especially if we take a look at what's going on in El Salvador and them actually using Bitcoin, I think they all need it. And of course, there was a great summary that just came out by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, where they specific. Let me show you. I love this one. I'm going to start talking about this a lot more. Let me see if I have it. And yep, right here. So the IMF, essentially 190 countries that come together. Well, not 100 that come together. They actually essentially create protocol lendings and financials for these different countries. And of course, it's a global community. America sits on it, 190 different countries as well. And IMF said that Bitcoin has become a necessary financial tool for preserving wealth amid financial instability. Now, there's some little pieces to it that are quite interesting, but I just found this was just on April, this was just yesterday it was put out. And I find this interesting because of all the people, especially like some of the people that you know, that talk about how Bitcoin's worthless and never does anything. Even one of the governors of the Fed Reserve, forgot the guy's name, slick bald head. He was like, I still don't see any function for Bitcoin. Well, the IMF disagrees with you. So who knows? I love these things because, you know, as more institutions and more of the big organizations and finally governments actually get into it, it's just ammo to say, we told you the whole time. We don't know why you're so dense. Well, we don't say that. We'd like to say that. We try to be more nice to people. I just want ADA to climb back up to $2 so I can get my money out and pay for my new car. Sounds good. Jean Luis, as a Coinbase user, did you try out their Coinbase wallet? I need to do that. Everybody says how great it is, so I will do that. Awesome, boys. We'll talk after this, buddy. Let's see. Bye now. Can anyone else turn it on and off the live stream? Nobody. Just me. That's why it's centralized. And we'll leave it at that because it is time to go. It's been an hour. So look, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Everything talked about is time sensitive, but congratulations for the ones that are here and bought in the bear market. You really did a great job. You know, you really did. And I think your family and friends and the people around you in your circle are going to reap the benefits as time goes on, just for you being around and, you know, sticking to your guns. So congratulations. So that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your weekend. Adios.